What's your favorite scary movie? Be like, I'm dying.
If some guy came up to me and said, "Hey, they guys, I'm like, it's over and done. We're married now."
Someone in the movie, so I'm like, kiss. But
oh God, what a sea of humanity.
Welcome in, all you renegades, rebels, and rogues. This is 52/1994, your live movie conversation podcast, where we dive deep into the movies of 1994. I'm your host, Cody, and I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Ryan. Ryan, welcome. For those tuning in for the first time, we're so glad you're here. Each week, 52 of them to be exact, we explore a different film from 1994, whether it's a classic hit, or it's a quirky gem. We'll dive into this year's important releases, discuss them in detail, and chat with my guest about their thoughts and experiences with this movie. So, before we jump in to this week's movie, let's welcome Ryan. Ryan, thank you again for joining us. I know I already said that, but I thought I'd do it again.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, have you seen the film that we're discussing today? And if so, what do you remember?
I'd seen this movie a lot as a kid, and I liked it a lot. And I think I would reference it and bring it up well into my current adulthood. And then rewatching it, there's a lot of scenes and sequences and lines I forgot. So it was when you released the list of your 1994 movies, this one and Renaissance Man were the ones I jumped on the most, where I was like, I remember loving those movies. I want to see them again. And I was very happy, mild spoilers, to discover that I still love this movie very much. It's awesome.
That's great. I am glad. And when I watch it, I feel like same thing. Obviously, Renaissance Man, we share that. But Maverick 2 is one of those movies that I remember watching as a child with my dad, and my dad just like busting out laughing at everything that's happening. It's a Western, which he already loves. And I don't just remembering that, and then having him tell me, spoiler alert, that Coop was the original Maverick in the Maverick movie.
Yeah.
And then it all makes sense at the end for everybody. But like, I feel like that was one of my dad's shining moments, is giving me trivia about a TV show in this movie. So
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. I remember watching this with, it was one of those Saturday afternoon that it came on TV sometime, or it was on TNT or something like that, especially like mid 90s. And we just watched it over and over and over again. So pretty cool, right?
It's pretty cool.
Do we make a movie? Do we do this again in 2024? Is this movie something that could be made in 2024?
Well, I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, I guess the only barrier is like it's not Westerns aren't in right now. I guess, or at least funny ones aren't. But I mean, I think I remember I was reading up like in Roger Ebert's thing, he talked about how Westerns were out until Dances with Wolves, and then a couple others, Tombstone last year, right? And that he kind of commented like on that wave like of the past like 2-3 years of Westerns coming back around and being acceptable again. This is the first family-friendly comedy Western that's kind of riding that wave. And he said one of the things he liked about this movie is that it doesn't apologize for being a Western at all. Like it's never making fun of itself for being a Western, which a lot of Westerns would do. A lot of would do Looney Tunes style stuff. Like, wasn't it dumb that we ever liked, these kinds of people or whatever? But this movie's very comfortable in its genre. So I think that would be the only limit of making it again. I think with the right actors, the right comedy, right slapstick or whatever, I think it could work all over again.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is I love Westerns, and I don't know if how you feel about Westerns and old Westerns, newer Westerns. Like, I'm a sucker for a Western. I don't know why that particular time period is an interesting one, because everything that we see is not really like real life of But maybe that's what makes it. So it's almost like science fiction in that way, but like a grounded science fiction, because it's like this is like genre wise is what I'm saying, not true science fiction. I'm just saying like.
Right. I mean, I guess the early 20th century, like that led into science fiction and comics and stuff. You had like adventure stories, right? So you had Tarzan and King Solomon's Mines, H.R. Haggard type stuff. And that was all born out of like Western colonialism, like, you know, the far reaches of Asia, like deep in the jungle in Africa, like these kind of fantastic places. But they were grounded adventures in the sense that there wasn't a lot of magic going on, you know. And then Westerns are definitely American adventure stories. They are fantastical in the way that they portray parts of history and parts of our country and stuff like that, obviously. But yeah, after making thousands of Western films in Hollywood, I mean, thousands, easy, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
it's
that was probably
genre.
the genre of the 30s, like especially those early films. Yeah.
I mean, I think the 1960s, we only made MGM musicals and Westerns. That's all we did.
Very true.
Yeah. And so it's natural that it would go by the wayside, but I think we'll always come back to it. And there'll always be some kind of built-in things that are inherently charming. The lawlessness, the dangers, the good guys, bad guys, less collateral damage because everybody's a bad guy in a saloon, or, you know, there's only, you know, there might be a cop around, but it's just one guy doing his best against, you know, a lot of chaos. Like that's always going to kind of appeal to us. So I think it'll always come back around.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember the last good Western I've seen. I know Kevin Costner came out with a Western this year that did not do as well. It is on the Max.
That's a film. That's not a series.
It's a 5-part film series.
Okay, sure. Horizon?
It's Kevin Costner's Lord of the Rings. Like
nice.
And yeah, it's the Horizon saga. And apparently, like, if you don't know that going in, like, to this, obviously it tells you Horizon Saga Part 1 or whatever it is. But if you go into this and you just take it as like a single movie, it's supposed to be like really terrible. It doesn't give you any kind of. It is better seen as probably like a TV show.
I see.
Yeah, but they're all like almost 3 hours a piece. So
I will add that me and my partner have been rewatching Deadwood, which is wonderful. And though not in script, but in portrayal, is a pretty accurate Western. And then when I was telling her, I was like, "Oh, this is a movie I love from my childhood." I was like, "It's like what if Disney did Deadwood? You'll like it." Yeah.
That's a great way to explain this. What if Disney did Deadwood?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we did come here to talk about this movie, so let me get into it. All right, we're talking about the movie Maverick, not to be confused with Top Gun Maverick. This is Maverick from 1994, which is based on a 1950s television show starring James Garner, one of our actors here, as the Brett Maverick. This came out in May 20th, 1994. It is directed by a big name director, Richard Donner. I mean, this is the guy that did Lethal Weapons. He's the guy that did The Goonies. He's the guy that did Superman. Like, there's a big deal. And then you pair him with a writer like freaking William Goldman, who is like the gold standard of screenwriting. Has written probably so many movies that you don't realize that it's him writing. He wrote most famously probably Butch and Sundance.
Probably that and Princess Bride.
Oh yeah, Princess Bride. Incredible movies. So William Goldman wrote this. This movie stars Mel Gibson at like the peak of Mel Gibson as Brett Maverick Jr. Or not Jr., but that's a spoiler. Jodie Foster as Annabelle Bransford, James Garner as Zane Cooper, Graham Greene as Joseph, Alfred Molina as Angel, and James Coburn as Commodore Duval. There are also so many cameos that we can sit on those until the time comes. But synopsis of this movie is this film update of the Maverick TV series finds the title cardship, hoping to join a poker contest with an impressive payoff. In order to enter, Maverick must first put up a large cash sum. He scams hopeful contestants Annabelle and Angel in a preliminary card game to win the money he needs, making enemies of both players. While trying to evade Annabelle Annabelle and Angel, the crafty Maverick realizes a cunning Marshall is also on his tail. That's not exactly how I'd explain that. Thank you, Google, for your terrible synopsis. This movie had a budget of $75 million, which seems like a lot.
Yeah.
For this movie.
That's wild. Yeah, I had no idea.
And this movie had a box office return of $183 million. It was the number 12 movie of our 1994 movies.
I will say this movie was like successful and decently well liked. And there's no way this movie would have been successful if it wasn't Donner and Goldman. Like, actually, that pairing. Otherwise, like, this would be another like curiosity we had on a bonus episode. Remember when Mel Gibson was in a Western and like, you know, it was silly and like PG or whatever? Like, no, I don't remember that. And you'd go back and watch it, be like, ooh, woof, this isn't great. I think the director got the cast together. The cast having a good time with each other, and William Goldman's script and make this movie way better than it has any right to be.
I agree. It's the charm of, like, it is like a perfect storm, and I still don't think this is an amazing movie, but like it's way more charming than it needs to be. You're right.
Yeah.
Like but yeah, credit to great director, great screenwriter, and some good stars. So speaking of ratings and how people like this, Rotten Tomatoes has this at 68%, IMDb at a 7 out of 10, and Letterboxd at a 3.4 out of 5. Roger Ebert gave this 3 out of 4 stars. He said, as one deception follows another, we catch on that nothing is as it seems, that the plot will unpeel layers like an onion, that revelations are only made to be unmasked. It's fun, although at 129 minutes, the movie is probably a little too long. So we have a negative review. So this is Rita Kempley of the Washington Post. She said, ultimately, Maverick is so clever it doesn't make a lick of sense. Goldman plunders his own classics, The Sting and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, for plot, and other Westerns for spoofable cliches, The Runaway Stagecoach, The Pillaged Wagon Train, Indian War Parties, but it's ultimately one big con job.
Woof.
Yeah. This movie was nominated for 1 Academy Award, and that was Best Costume Design. So it lost out to Priscilla.
Oh, really? Yeah, great.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about this movie some. We already kind of, gave a little bit of our foreknowledge about this movie. But so what are some of the standout scenes that you think make this film memorable? Because when I first watched this, I could only remember 2 scenes, and I kept waiting for these scenes to happen. And this movie was very long, as they already said, but like I didn't realize how much else was in between these like standout scenes for me. So
yeah, no, totally. I didn't think about what I could actually remember. Certainly the final riverboat scene I remembered a lot of, and then I kept remembering right ahead what was about to happen as I rewatched it. It is a little long, and we could edit it down a good bit, but one of the things I like is that there's not a million scenes. There's sequences, and there's like half a dozen really great sequences, and I like that this movie lets one scene lean right into the next.
Yeah.
The pacing's really good that way. Things just kind of feel like they happen naturally. It's not like, okay, that adventure's done, now we start this one. There's always a little crossover of how they got there and then how they got out. So I like that a lot. But the first important scene, and they're all long, which makes me like the movie better, is just the first poker game.
Yeah, that's what I had first as well, because you get, obviously introducing our characters, but I mean, this gives us, what everybody's playing at from the beginning of this movie. And, you can't trust certain people right away, particularly like Jodie Foster's character. Can't trust her, can't trust Maverick. You can't trust anybody. And that's basically what this first sequence, because it bleeds over, like you said, into from the card game being played to his interactions with Annabelle to all this other stuff, like him even into the next day. It's crazy.
Yeah. So even the thing at the end with the shirt ends up to the next morning with the shirt. ends up chasing her to the stagecoach where you meet Coop. You know, like they do really, and this is probably just William Goldman being an expert of his craft, like really does just kind of fall into each other like dominoes. But the poker scene is great. And I guess like the number one thing to say about it is that like, yeah, I remember like Mel Gibson used to be the most charming motherfucker on earth. Like he really is great in this movie. And his little stutters and his facial expressions and his pauses and his talking fast, like he really just, he eats this role up, and it's so much fun watching him be Brett Maverick.
Yeah, it's I feel like he is, I mean, obviously he's worked with Richard Donner at this point and they have a relationship together. But it does feel like he's just riffing, and like at times those stutters, like I can't tell if they're just like, just keep the camera on and let him work through this. Let him Joe Biden his way through this thing. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden has a stutter. That's not a thing about his anything else. He just has a stutter. That's what I was referencing.
Yeah. So don't get crazy in chat. We're not mocking him for anything other than his stutter, okay? Just kidding. No, he I mean, first of all, you learn this character so much, and then I very quickly like realized that one of the things that's done this character the best is probably like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like he's a little he's a Captain Jack Sparrow, right? Like he's a little bit of a scoundrel. He's a coward, but he does have talent and he does have plans, but he's always like one step ahead of getting like screwed over. Like he barely makes it through. And I like it a lot. I like that he's like, he gives a whole speech about why he's a coward or whatever, but then also like plays a little scam where he's really good with gunplay. And you find out later in the movie, he can't hit anything. So like, he's just threatening people.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah, that's great.
Although it gets broken at the end of the movie, but that's fine.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, does he shoot somebody?
Yeah. He shoots Angels, the guys that.
Oh yeah, right. He grabs Coop's gun and shoots him. Yeah, that's pretty dope too.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it's good. You got all these characters. You got the main bad guy who's been introduced from the prologue. You've got the flirtations with Annabelle, and then I don't remember. I meant to look up that actor, whoever that actor is, who plays the real life gunman, John Hardy. He's really great. But yeah, and you get so many things going on. Him promising, like, there's so many cool little things that are memorable to me from watching this movie as a kid, like that I'm sure may have been in other movies, or if that review was correct, in other Donner movies. But him promising to lose for an hour if they'll let him play. And then realizing that he spent that whole hour, that he's counted it down on his pocket watch, and that in just the right hand, he's already poised and ready to take a big pot. And that he's been reading everybody's tells for an hour, and that he was so confident he could lose all of his chips slowly, and that turn around and make that into a win is pretty dope.
It does feel, not to, to bring up Goldman again, it does feel like this. It feels like he took Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting and said, all right, let's do this. Mm-hmm. And that's where he came out Maverick. Because I sit there, I watch him, and I think of like Paul Newman. Like he is the new Paul Newman in the sense.
Yeah. I bet people were saying that about him at the time too. I bet they were calling him the new Paul Newman, because that really, like, he's even got like the rectangle face. He's like tall and slim. Yeah, totally. And honestly, I mean, like, I don't ever remember The Sting that much. But in Princess Bride, like, there's a lot of, but I'm actually not left-handed, or like Sicilian stuff, like little like twist within scenes, twist within twist within twist. Which are all like, delightful and surprising. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't know. You watch so many movies where you just want to, like, they're just written so straightforward on the tropes that they're like resting on, and I get bored to hell. And I think in this movie, I'm always like, oh my God, that's cool. That's cool that you did that. This could have been a good scene without that. And you added all this extra stuff,
Yeah, I agree. And I think that Jodie Foster lends towards, like, we're talking about Mel Gibson here, but I think she's really funny and carries her own, and like, I like to see somebody that I've seen in like serious movies. I mean, we watched her in Nell this year, or Silence of the Lambs.
I was wondering, I don't know when I've ever seen Jodie Foster be funny, but she's really funny in this.
She's really funny in this.
Yeah.
And I think she, works well right with him. Whether it's her physical comedy, of her like falling down all the time or any of that. She's just really funny in this scene, and I like when the shootout happens and or not shootout, when he like pulls his gun on Johnny Harden and she goes, "Was that fast? I think that was fast. Was that fast?" Like I like that.
I always remember that. It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, as a side note, is this where their like lifelong friendship started? Because her and Mel Gibson are like homies, right? It has to be this movie.
It is this movie. That's actually one of my little fun facts is that this is where that friendship comes from.
Okay, interesting. I mentioned it earlier. It's going to come up again and again, but I read it in one of the reviews. But like, one of the reasons this movie works so well, especially when the three of them are together, is because they're having so much fun filming this film, and they like each other, right? And so the repartee is quick and funny, and they're clearly ad-libbing and like really into their roles. So the chemistry is just like really great between all three of them here.
You could have told me. So this is another fun fact. Okay, that I learned upon researching this is that this version of Maverick, a funny Western, wasn't even a thing for the first 3 seasons of Maverick, the television show.
Until James Garner left the show.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the show, which is so weird because like seeing them and you get your big reveal at the end that James Garner is Maverick's dad. And they're just sitting there. They are the same. Like they couldn't have gotten 2 more perfect people that are just as smart alecky and charming and good looking. Because I mean, James Garner, especially back in the Maverick days, good looking dude. He's a good looking older dude.
Yeah.
But like to see them,
your charm too. Like they're quick to be defensive, but they're never really fully hurt.
Yeah,
that thing really well together.
Also, he comes out of nowhere after this whole sequence. Like he's just on the ferry.
Yeah. So this is a long introduction without like the third member of the cast. But yeah, you definitely get a lot. You get all you need of Brett Maverick and then a lot of Jodie Foster here. And then there's already setting up things. So like this movie's also very good of going seamlessly between comedy and action. And so like, you have the threat of the shootout. Again, it would have been cool enough if he just showed that he could outdraw the gun guy and they'd be like, hey, let's all chill or whatever. But then he also adds, I'll always remember the comedy of like the gun keeps popping out of his holster. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't keep it down. It's so funny. And then like right into like a big brawl, right? Where he gets dragged outside and has to fight off 6 dudes, which you find out in coming scenes was something he set up.
Which is awesome.
Which is awesome, yeah.
That's just so cool.
Because now the gun guy's not scared of him, even though he's supposedly you can't shoot a lick. And the big bad guy of the whole movie is like, just like, sorry, sir, whatever you want, sir, whatever. Because you just saw him kick the shit out of 6 people. He's lost all his money on purpose. And then now the room is his. And you don't really get to see a lot of it, but he presumably kind of just cleans up the rest of the night and makes money off of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And there's also, man, so much happens before we get James Garner in.
Yeah.
Like there's that whole bank robbery scene where he goes to the banker to get his money. And then a bank robbery happens at that time, robbed by one of the first cameos in the movie, Danny Glover, doing their whole Lethal Weapon shtick. And that's great for them. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but, I was like, oh, cool, I get it. Also, it's funny because I'm getting too old for this shit had just become a crazy popular line. We're in 2024. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, duh, we get it. We know, guys. Like,
also, this is where my name comes from because you see Corey Feldman as a bank robber in this movie.
Actually, I think I read that Corey Feldman was supposed to be the gunslinger. And that Mel Gibson or somebody was like, I don't like him. And he was like, that's a good bank robber.
Mel Gibson did not like him. Yeah, he vetoed it. That was something but is Corey Feldman a reliable person?
Ever. Yeah, it was true.
Ever.
Yeah, truly.
He could have just tried it.
You're going to get your MJ soapbox again? That's not what this podcast is about.
Listen, guys. No, we're not talking about MJ.
No, we're not talking about MJ. No. We're talking about JF. So, yeah, then they go upstairs and very good chemistry. She robs him. He catches her. But then they kind of flirt. And then now he feels too confident. And then she gets away with robbing him. But then he catches her again. and then like makes her wash his shirt, but then she fucks up his good shirt. So that's all great. Yeah, it's a lot of establishment there. That is it. Everything in the opening scene is what's good about the rest of the movie.
I know your name is Grody Foster, but
I don't think she's grody. I had to think of something in 3 seconds.
But I wanted to bring up: is this the best that Jodie Foster has ever looked in a movie?
I mean, I don't know what I didn't see a lot of her 90s acting. Like she's clearly like embraced like not being a pretty or especially feminine style actor, both in her personality and in the work she directs. And so like she had to go on a journey about that kind of stuff. So I don't know how often she's playing like with a bustle and like frills on a dress, So she is very pretty in this movie, but also I don't know like what else was she in? Fucking Panic Room or stuff, or Silence of the Lambs? Like
Silence of the Lambs.
Clarice isn't supposed to be a pretty character at all, right? So
no,
like, like that, yeah.
Like Summersby, I guess, which we watched last year. It's a like Civil War era drama. So she's got a little bit of this like period, piece dress up, but not like she is in Maverick. And then
how often is she like is she just like smiling as much, like or in other movies, like she doesn't.
That's terrible. So let's talk about why women should smile.
Totally.
That's what this podcast is about.
No, I think this is why I love Jodie Foster and forget every other 90s actress because of the roles written for them. Jodie Foster, like throughout her career, has just picked and done so many cool, interesting things.
Yeah.
Especially for a woman in Hollywood. So this is kind of a standout role. And again, just like she does not usually in funny roles either. She's not usually in roles where her like femininity is supposed to be like, a forward part of the character that I remember at least.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see her in there.
I was like blown away.
Yeah.
I was like, holy cow. Like it's a completely different person. And Silence of the Lambs is one of my favorite movies ever.
She also looks like she could be related to the two of them.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah. It is.
That would be that's the director's cut reveal. The after credit sequence when she's like, I fucked both of you, my brother and my dad. All right, scene 2.
Scene 2. That's an Avengers I'd like to see. Oh my gosh. The stagecoach. I mean, it goes right into the stagecoach, and because I think this is the first like real action piece we get to see. We get to see that like fight in the streets, but this stagecoach scene is great, and one of the things that I remember from my childhood. I loved the scene, him discovering that the old man has died. That is leading the stagecoach. And
again, it's very long in a welcoming way. Like it goes on for a long time, and I love it all.
And that joke was set up 5 minutes before with them saying, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Why do people always ask me that?"
Yeah,
like,
I love it.
Great, great that he ends up dead. And
they don't even like explain what was wrong with him. And it's like you meet him, he says that, and then he's dead. And you're like, "Oh, it's a fucking Old West. This is what happens."
Would it have been funnier if he would just been asleep?
Mm-hmm.
And then they threw him off the.
No, it's funnier that he's dead. Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he kills him when he throws him off the thing.
Well, see, quickly we meet Coop, who puts himself out there as a gentleman, and as a foil to Maverick's scoundrelness. He's more of a gentleman, and he's a lawman. And but the chemistry between the three of them is just there immediately. Mm-hmm. So even though it's taken us a while to get Coop around, he's immediately like makes sense between the three of them. Jodie Foster starts working her con tricks on him, and Maverick's just laughing at her and kind of trolling her the whole time. And then Coop is saying, "Hey, be nice to the lady, like be a gentleman," kind of thing. And then you find out they're all going to be in the stagecoach together.
And it's great. It's enemies. This is a movie, enemies to lovers, and it's a triangle.
Yeah.
That would have been so good.
That would be great. So the review you read said that these tired old tropes like the stagecoach runaway, that's one of the best runaway stagecoach scenes I've ever seen filmed. It's great. Like you have amazing vistas, you have wide shots of them going super fast. You've got comedy in the middle of it, multiple types of comedy. Another movie that keeps coming up, and when I watch this, is Indiana Jones, and it feels like Spielberg like doing like the whole train sequence, which is long and has a bunch of little stories in the bigger story too.
I was even thinking just with this, with Maverick hanging off like the back of the stagecoach, it is like that car chase scene in, I think, Raiders. Or it might be Last. I think he does it in every movie, but he's like hanging off the back of one of those trucks and in his way. That's what I thought of too, Indiana Jones. And
I feel like they did a lot of Indiana Jones here. I thought it was even obvious in the very opening scene when the snakes come out and he goes, "Oh, snakes!" And I hate snakes. You know.
I want to know who did the cinematography for this. Maybe that.
Yeah, I didn't look it up. I meant to. But I mean, and it may be a whole second unit director who's doing the action sequences versus the inside stuff or whatever. But the action sequences are filmed great. The fight scene we talked about earlier is great. This scene, I think, is maybe the best action sequence in the movie for sure. It's the most action sequence.
And I think this is really good. Like you said, it has the comedy moments in it too, with Coop lying about the wheel and not wanting to get out there and just being awesome and being like, "Oh, don't worry about Maverick. He's got it. He seems to be on top," and he falls through. Like, so many good comedy sequences in here, along with really good action. I really, and I know it's not him doing it, but I love when that guy jumps horse to horse.
I mean, he goes out the window, he falls down, he sees the dead guy, goes out the window, he goes underneath speed style, climbs up the back, climbs up the net breaks, all the luggage hits him one at a time, he still climbs up over the thing, grabs the dead body falls down and scares Jodie Foster, then he's onto horse by horse by horse, making them stop, and then of course there has to be a cliff at the end that he barely survives getting over. It's so much. It's using every bit of space you can on that thing, and it even mentions things like, "How's that wheel going? Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I had a really good look at it from underneath the stagecoach."
And it ends so great with Maverick being pissed off that they didn't do anything, saying, "Don't help me," and then he falls down the cliff, and he's like, "I need your help to get up."
And what I like on the rewatch, you see this is kind of the first bit you get from Coop, is that like they are father and son from the beginning, even if you never see it coming. And the false politeness, the thinking quick on your feet, and the being a coward thing. Like, Coop is doing that throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And he's just getting away and pulling the wool over everybody's eyes by like kind of being more secretive about it. But he's constantly doing those three things. And by the end, you're like, "Oh, are they father and son? They're so different," but they're not at all. Like,
no,
the whole wagon thing, and then saying, "Oh, it's for his own good," and all that stuff. Like, I'm just trying to help him be brave. And that's very Maverick. So he got it from Coop.
At what point do you think Jodie Foster had it figured out? Because she knew, like,
well, when she fucked him off screen.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. That's when it was.
At the end of the movie she knew there's three reasons she knew. They're the same height, same build. They sing the same bad words to Amazing Grace, which is a great line. I wish that was in the movie though. I don't think they sing wrong words.
No, I didn't think they sing the wrong words.
It'd be great if they did. And then that was a Easter egg. And that they kiss the same, but you don't see her kiss Coop. So you assume that happens off screen. And if like she kissed him off screen, she probably fucked him off screen too.
I want to know what the 3-hour cut of this looks like, because I think a lot of this got cut. I mean, I think a lot got cut.
I know of one scene that got cut for sure. Yeah. But
release the daughter cut.
When does she know? Maybe I don't know. Yeah, on screen, I don't know. Maybe after the fake Indians part, she might get it together. Or maybe after Brett leaves and they're walking away and Coop's like, he'll be fine, or something. I was like, I don't know, man. You seem too comfortable with this stuff.
Which the stagecoach goes right into the Indians. Although I do love that they bury that guy, the stagecoach guy, and they were like, "We don't know if he was a good guy or not. He's got a list of whorehouses in his wallet."
The only thing he has in his wallet is a list of whorehouses.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Poor guy. He was trying to get to the next area.
Yeah, I don't know. That guy got a bad rap for sure. Everybody's asking him if he's okay.
But then we get into the Indian scene.
Yeah, then we find some some religious settlers who are about to go found a church, but they've been robbed by what they think are Indians, but Brett immediately says they're not. There's no Indians around there or something. And they're hilarious.
Also, didn't realize that was Margot Kidder at the as Margaret Mary.
Yeah, who I think is a little bit of trivia, played in a Western with James Garner in a TV show and was supposed to marry him in the show. And so that's one of the reasons that she's always like making jokes about wanting to get married to James Garner or kind of making those comments at him. There's a little Easter egg. They're very funny. Mary Margaret and Margaret Mary. Yeah, and so then they need money, so they say, all right, well, we'll go figure out what happened to your music box and your wedding dress and your $30,000. The economy in this movie is out of the fucking world.
Insane, right? Yeah, like the fact that you have to raise 25 grand, which is, I think I looked it up late at one.
I saw 600,000.
Yeah, 600,000 is what that was in 2004 or something. So I mean, yeah, I'd say around that 700,000, something like that's insane money in 73, whatever year we're in.
And I guess that's coming from the show. It's consistent throughout the movie because everything is kind of like that. But I saw like in the original TV show, you see the one scene where he's kind of trying to rip off the guys he hired. He always keeps 100 pinned to him. Apparently in the TV show, the original Brett Maverick always kept $1,000 bill pinned inside of his.
That's just a lot of money.
Like, yeah, holy shit. I would kill for $1,000 bill in 2024.
I'm not taking 25 G's and entering a poker contest. Like,
yeah, no, not at all.
I did like that there were only like 20 contestants. Is that how much it was? Yeah, 20. Only 20 people, but these are the billionaires of the time, apparently.
Yeah.
They get together on this boat, which is just insane. No, I like this Indian scene. I really like Joseph.
Joseph's so great.
He's really great. I know that Graham Greene has played many an indigenous character, like a typical indigenous character, or stereotypical indigenous character.
Yeah, right.
But he's so good in this, and like, the jokes that are in the scene about how shitty white men are and all that stuff are really a lot funnier because like I love that we're not trying to speak like this isn't the Coen brothers doing Maverick where they're trying to be authentic to the time. Like I feel like this is just Joseph from today shooting the shit with Maverick and
no, it really works too. It's refreshing. I mean, and like I'm glad because when I remembered that, I was like, as these scenes were happening, I was like, oh, I remember something like this. Oh, I remember something that happens. Like, he actually knows like the Native American. But then I started getting a little cringy. I was like, how bad is this going to be from '94? And it's really not. I mean, it's not going out of its way to be like super sensitive or corrective about anything. But the main character, like Jodie Foster, shows a little like ignorant fear and like racism of like the savagery of Indians. James Garner doesn't really like get on board with it, and then Brett Maverick is just out of the gates like that. What are you talking about? Like these people are fine. Leave them. Yeah. He's like, oh, what? Yeah, I shoot an Indian a day. I mean, I figure it's their fault for being on the land before we got here, and so then the only people who actually do hurt these women are like white settlers who are pretending to be Indians to like rob them or whatever. But what a genius that whole scene, the slapstick in that scene is great. Them arguing behind trees. One of my favorite moments is when he's supposed to go in there and sneak into the camp and he just goes, all right, everybody, wake up. You're like, whoa, that wasn't the plan.
He's like, there's no way I can shoot my way out of this. I'm not good at I'm
just gonna wake everybody up and then talk my way out of it. Yeah.
It's so good. I don't know how he was gonna do that without getting into like a gunfight.
I don't know what the actual plan was. I think maybe it was just like sneak in there and steal and come back out.
Oh yeah, I guess that's a good point. And he was like, I'm too lazy for that. I'm going to try and get it all in one go.
There's great memes in that scene. I mean, them behind the tree and then the stuff he says. Like, I mean, just the subtle comedy of him introducing himself by the wrong name that she keeps calling him.
I didn't realize that's where this is coming. I've seen this before where people have called a guy named Brett Burt. And they keep doing it just to make fun of them. I didn't know it came from this movie, Brett.
Yeah. But yeah, that all they recover all the stuff and then they decide to give the nice church ladies their money back and not take it.
I really like this scene though, because I love that Maverick, and you talked about it at the beginning, and I never realized this was an attribute of Maverick, is like he's a terrible shot when it comes to people. Like I
Yeah.
can never shoot a person, but he's such a good shot when he's aiming at, a gun or
That's
the
fine, yeah.
rocks or whatever
Mhm.
it is, the slapstick stuff
He's
that
just squeamish
happens.
about killing people, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
But
even the great shot he does at the end that you brought up is because like him, and we learn later his dad's life is on the line at that moment. So
yeah.
then he's able to like take the shot at a human being.
But even in this scene, though, older, what we know is Maverick's dad shoots at the people, but it doesn't fatally wound any of them. It's just like
Yeah.
I think somebody gets shot in the leg or something, which is not a great feeling, but it also makes you think like, oh, these guys are the same guys. They're not trying to shoot to kill. They don't really want to hurt anybody, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So
Totally, they're Han Solos, right? Yeah, they're a little cowardly. They're very capable if they have to be, but they're not looking for a fight. They're looking for a payday and some fun. And then this crazy stuff keeps happening to them. Yeah, the 1994 like what rating system is going on here is weird because you don't see anybody like drink in this movie. You kind of have more like cursing than I would expect for a movie that my mom loved to watch with me when I was a kid. And then, yeah, you don't have any like outright nudity, but you have a lot of like, popping up from behind the bed and throwing clothes around kind of stuff. A lot of general horniness. But yeah, you also don't see anybody really get shot and killed, or when it does happen, it's never really made explicit. You don't see any blood in this movie ever.
It's very Hays Code.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Which honestly, I guess that maybe works into the genre a bit too. Like if they are kind of like making those decisions because of like the heyday of Westerns. Then yeah, they're not trying to be Sam Peckinpah about it. They're not.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I was like, let's not try and be Sam Peckinpah.
Yeah.
And I was even thinking of, Goldman's other movie, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's more fun action sequences like this, and I don't think you see any like real bloodshed. I think it's a little violent, but it's not. It's more like the old Western.
He's like dying in the thing, like you see the hero wounded, but that's about it.
It's not Bonnie and Clyde. It's not what we've grown accustomed to over the years, I guess. And
yeah, it all feels cartoony and safe and a little slapstick, especially during the action fight. But still clever things. Again, like the gunfight's enough fun, but adding in like, oh, I don't want to help him, I'll get killed. But then he like throws in 2 shots real quick, and Jodie Foster's like, "Did you just help him?" He's like, "Nah, I didn't help him." Stuff like that, like just doesn't. That's all a little extra icing. That's where the movie's being lovingly written and crafted. I think.
I love that this is like essentially 5 episodes of Maverick, the TV show.
Kinda, yeah.
That's really what it is, because like this whole Indians saga is a big piece. Like that's a big part of the middle.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah. And because right after they get all the stuff back from the stagecoach, then the group of Indians that we see appear, and this is when Brett Maverick tries to con his way away from the 2 people that he's kind of been stuck with and hates the whole time. I guess that's his motivation.
Well, I think he wants to go get his money.
That's what it is. Without her being there.
Without her being there, or maybe he's just also not like in love with either of them at the moment either. But he knows he'll meet back. He knows where they're going. And then he knows he'll meet back up with them, but he needs to go get his money, and he just all of a sudden like his wheels start turning. He was like, I could really fuck with these people right now, and it's hilarious. I think it's a very unique scene. I don't know that I've seen stuff like that in other movies. Where you see the subtitles of them speaking in a native tongue, and like, yeah, they're like, all right, just make a lot of noise, shoot your guns in the air, and then he turns around and convinces them like, I'm just gonna sacrifice myself for all of you because I'm so noble. I'm the brave one, right, Dad? Like.
I really like that Joseph did reply though. He's like, "Who's that girl back there? She's really pretty." Like,
yeah, and then he starts like howling and like eyebrows at her.
Like a Tex Avery wolf. Like
totally, yeah.
Wild. So like this is the only scene that I felt like was kind of parody-ish of the.
It does feel parody,
yeah. Yeah. It's and
then Joseph's character overall feels parody. And they actually are living out a parody, and it's kind of probably not meant to be that smart, but a kind of smart comedy about the Westerns they're referencing, of like Native Americans being portrayed or even participating in acting and like, these cartoonish versions of who they were. Yeah, I also love at the last joke just to troll and guilt her even more. And he goes, "I guess my lucky shirt will fit now because he's gonna get both his arms cut off." And she's like, "Oh my gosh,
Oh,
that's
man.
awesome."
Yes, that was really good. Really good stuff, and we get that comical scene with the shooting of the Archduke or whatever going after Mel Gibson dressed up in war paint and everything, and he almost gets shot at with an arrow, and he almost gets shot at with a real gun, a loaded gun.
All of that's played with good physical slapstick. Like Mel Gibson's like movements there are pretty like very good Bugs Bunny style stuff going on.
What else? I mean, besides like Lethal Weapon, like has he done anything else? Physical comedy stuff?
Years. I saw Hamlet was in '90, and that's memorable, but not it wasn't really popular. Lethal Weapon 2 was '89, and Lethal Weapon 3 was '93.
Okay.
But I didn't see between '89 and '93 anything else that jumped out at me. But next year is Braveheart.
Yeah.
So like this is the movie he did right before Braveheart, pretty much.
And Pocahontas.
Is he in Pocahontas?
Oh yeah, he's John Smith.
Oh, I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it great that that Mel Gibson's character is the SJW of this movie?
It's funny, like it's just we forget because it's been so long since we've had any reason to like him. How likable he was.
I mean,
and I was watching the old Mad Max movies like a week or two ago, and they're great and everything, but he doesn't get to be likable in them. Gallipoli's a great movie, but he's not necessarily likable.
Yeah, I was about to say
it's just Lethal Weapon, I guess, that gives us like the Mel Gibson that like all guys want to hang out with and all women want to be with kind of thing. Like he's super hot, but he's also super cool, and you can't hate him at all. So I guess Lethal Weapon's what gave us that version of him.
Yeah, I liked Mel Gibson up until like 2003. Then
I mean, cop genre is not my favorite genre either. So I mean, Lethal Weapons are good movies. I like them, but
yeah,
I'm crazier about Maverick than I am about those.
Yeah. I can't even tell you something that he's been in recently that I was like, oh yeah, remember when Mel Gibson was something? Like,
yeah, I can't think of anything. I know he's done some stuff, but I just know that Jodie Foster, who was kind of a defender of him when his reputation sank, was the one who gave him the chance to come back with The Beaver, right? Like she directed that movie and was like, nope, I've stood by Mel the whole time. I think he's a good dude. He's going through some shit. And I'm gonna try to bring him back a little bit in a movie that I think people genuinely liked, but didn't turn around and go, "Oh my god,
yeah, we're missing Mel Gibson." Yeah,
yeah, right.
Anyway, we have that funny sequence. Maverick finally, gets close enough to how much money he has on him. One thing I did want to reference. What a great bait and switch though, with him going for his $23,000.
I love it.
Like, that was great.
The acting's great, and it's great because you're like, oh, now she stole the money. He's gonna have to go get it back, and they're like, well, that's naturally what would happen in this movie. Like that wouldn't be surprising at all.
There's such a good bait and switch. I love that because that was the obvious move to go with it. And I guess Goldman's just like, nah, we're not going to pull you there. We'll have a meet at this place, meet on the riverboat, which is
tiny twists within scenes or whatever. Yeah. The constant running bit twist of like getting his money. I mean, you had the twist earlier where the guy says he doesn't have his money, then he gets robbed by Danny Glover, and he clearly had all the money he needed. Yeah. That keeps happening throughout the movie, but the twist of like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like they are really good friends, but even good friends rip each other off in this world. And so he's like, all right, well, I'll get you 500 for that, and we'll split it 250, but he got 1,000. Then he talks the dude up to 2,000 by giving him the gun. And those are little twists that happen. And then even later on, he's like, hey, come on, brother, I got him up to 1,000. Then there's like a kind of not great twist where he's like, no, trust me, he wasn't going to hit you because his hand got fucked up using my bow.
Oh, yeah.
So that was going to make his aim bad enough to like not kill you? I was like, I don't know if I trust that, man.
I didn't no, that's very funny. I didn't even think about that. Like he was just like, oh yeah, that's what I was depending on. Right. My bow to really fuck him up.
That was my quick thinking in the moment. Yeah. But yeah, little twists within scenes happen throughout this movie, and it makes it very fresh and continuously fun to watch.
And again, like I know we're getting ready to talk about the poker tournament and the riverboat and everything, but the Archduke from this episode ends up being a very crucial part of this episode at the very beginning of
the
that.
scenes just kind of like tie into each other. So I agree that it's a little too long and that there's places to trim some fat in this movie, but it doesn't feel long because you never feel like a scene's ended and now you have to care about a new one.
Right,
it always
right.
just kind of like falls right into the next one, which is really great writing. I mean, that's a hard thing to do on purpose.
Yeah. This would be a great 8-episode Netflix show. They should figure that out. I'm kidding. Though the poker tournament is the one thing I remember the most from this, and like the double cross at the end of it.
Yeah.
And everything in between. It does still feel like, even though I know the scene is not necessarily in Indiana Jones, but like the scene after they get their break, they have an hour to return, and then like him and Jodie Foster, bang it out or whatever. And then, we've still got, 15 more minutes. Let's get back down to this. That just feels very Indiana Jonesy to me.
Yeah, I agree.
That doesn't exist, but it's that whole, like him having to go out the window and scale out, and
the way that there's like slow pan filming of the frightening like steamboat wheel that's going to like chop him up if he's not careful. Like that's very Spielberg, Indiana Jones, the way that's filmed. And just a quick little action sequence thrown in. It all kind of makes sense. It's not like a whole big, 20 minutes. How do I get out of this room to get there in time? It just kind of happens like that, which is fun.
The real question is, isn't he technically still eliminated because he wasn't in his
seat?
Yeah.
Yeah. It said be in your seat by the stroke of 5 or you forfeit the tournament, but he only gets through the door after the stroke of 5 and doesn't get to sit down.
So he's disqualified.
Yeah. Cheaters. He's a cheater.
He's a cheater.
Yeah.
No, I thought this scene was actually much like longer than it ended up being. Like the final table scene, I felt like I remember it being so much more. I don't know.
I always remembered this as being a poker movie, and it definitely counts as one, but there's not that much poker in it.
No, not at all. I really thought the riverboat was 90% of this movie. I thought there were a lot of like I thought this took place on a riverboat.
Yeah.
To be honest. I remember the stagecoach scene and then the riverboat, and those are the two things. And that's all. I didn't assume that there were things in the middle when I was thinking about this movie. But yeah, you see a lot of cameos in this scene too from a bunch of country singers. You get like a montage of them all playing, and then it gets to that final table where we're left with, Jodie Foster and the Commodore, played by James Coburn, who's always great when he shows up. Like I think of him from Sister Act 2. He's the bad guy.
Oh yeah, he's the bad guy. He's got that voice. He reminded me every time he spoke in this movie. He kept making me think of Alan Arkin narrating like the Rankin Bass, like when he narrated The Hobbit and The Last Unicorn. That beautiful voice. James Coburn sounds just like Alan Arkin.
Yeah. And then who else is there? Angel. I guess there are 4 players there.
Yeah.
And is there 4? Yeah, only 4. And they're playing 5-card. I think they're playing 5-card draw. That's right. Yeah. 5-card draw. And I don't know. I don't know what it is about 5-card draw movies. They're never as interesting as like the rounders of the world whenever it comes to
Texas Hold'em. That's why it's the only game anybody ever plays. It's the only game that you can apply skill to, but still have a decent amount of randomness. And it's way more fun to watch. The drama unfolds literally from card to card.
Yeah.
I also want to point out quick that there's little motifs going throughout. I mean, getting the name wrong is like a little running joke. But you have him telling her throughout the movie what her tells are.
Yeah.
And so that comes up here. Obviously, like the card thing, like there's actually a lot of little tiny motifs that come up. Him hiding money in his boot is another one. But anyway, so the first thing that happens at that final game, and real quick, I love that it happens at 5 a.m. Like you get an hour break and we're just going straight into sunrise. Somehow that adds cool drama to it instead of like wasting time of them just kind of milling around and talking shit for a day and then starting again at night. But the first one to go out is Jodie Foster. Maverick takes her out of the tournament after they've been fucking for an hour. And then she's like, so I didn't do any of my tells. And then he's like, you held your breath. And then one by one, everybody in the room was like, you did hold your breath.
I do love that throughout the movie, he's, telling her how to be a better poker player, gives her tells, but doesn't tell her that she has another tell.
All of her tells. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't tell her all of her tells, just enough to where she's like, oh, I'm not going to do this and this and this anymore. It's clever. It's and it provides a great joke from.
I want to point out that sometimes in movies I don't like when there's a group and it's all like one person always kind of loses.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely don't like when it's the only woman in the group that always loses. It doesn't bother me in this movie. Maybe because Jodie Foster's having so much fun and her character's having so much fun. That even like when she goes over and Coop's over there, he's like, you did hold your breath like for the 5th time. She's like, whatever, get me out of here. Like, she kind of always is a little bit the butt of the joke, or it's getting over on her or whatever. But she's kind of indomitable and she never seems like that hurt by it or whatever.
Yeah.
But usually in movies, I was thinking about that. I was like, usually I don't like it when like one character is always losing. But she kind of does in this movie. Somehow it works anyway.
I think it's probably just because she's always winning too at the end. Like she always knows what her next move is going to be. Yes, I went down here, but I know what my next plan is going to be. You can see that in the poker game at the beginning of the movie when she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to beat this guy. I'm going to join this guy. I'm going to learn from this guy."
Yeah,
and because she kind of loses in that game too. So
she never lets herself feel bad. I guess she never shows that she feel bad. She kind of pops right back up with a new plan, a new scheme, a new angle. Which is good. And then obviously she gets the last laugh in the movie, but even then I wasn't like, she also like when she walks away from Maverick at the end of the scene, like walks away in grace and happiness and confidence and everything. So I just remember being like, oh, she just gets knocked out immediately and everybody's like, yeah, you suck at poker. We did point out, me and my partner, we pointed out a goof though, where she's like, at some point in the last game, she goes, can I bet all of this? And we're like, lady, you got to the final table of the poker tournament. We all know you know how to play poker. Are you like trying to like play coy? Like, oh, I'm not sure how to do this. Do I put the chips this way? Can I use all of them?
And like, she's playing with 2 guys that have already played with her before. Like,
yeah, totally. They know she's a con woman. They know she's good at poker. So I don't know. She's trying to like really like screw with Commodore. So that was one of her tells that she's full of shit. She doesn't know how to play at a poker tournament.
She's not a good liar.
$25,000 for and got to the final table at.
Also, another reason why she takes loss with such grace is she even says it. She's like, "Oh, I'm just going to pretend like I'm playing with someone else's money," and Maverick says, "Because it probably is." Else's money. Yeah. So it's never hers.
And we'll get to it. The theme of the movie is that all of this was fun to do, not to defeat a bad guy, not to win it all, not to have all the money. It's the adventure that's the fun, and so I think she kind of embodies that too.
Yeah, I love this. I love. It gets me every time when he pulls the card.
Yeah,
he just flips it. I'm just like, yes. I feel like I'm like,
so I remember that so much from when I was a kid. The whole sequence. In fact, one of my quotes I'll just say now because I've been misquoting this for 20 years. Every now and then I'll bring it up and I'll say it to somebody in some context and knowing full well that they have no idea what I'm quoting or that it's going to be a fun quote. But I want a new deck, a new cut, and a new shuffle. That's what I say anytime I'm like joking that someone's cheating around me and nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about. And I'm also not saying it right. I wrote it down. Now I might remember it. I'm like, I want a new dealer, a new shuffle, and a new boat or some shit.
Still,
like, yeah, whatever, man.
Still very funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have ever caught that. I love this movie. I wonder if I could have guessed it just from loving this, but that's really funny. You quote that part.
I quote it all the time. It's the number one. There's 2 quotes that I've said a lot from this movie. One of them's coming up, but that's the other one that I've said my whole life. But yeah, a great drama in the buildup. He sees the cheating. He calls the cheating out, but for some reason they're like, nope, can't do that. And he goes, you know what? I want you, the guy I know who's cheating me and has been trying to stop me and who's tried to kill me. I want you to give me this last card. And so he just like, hey, that's pretty cool. It's pretty brave of you. And he slowly puts it up. He re-raises against the other 2 without looking at his card. And it's making everybody nervous and scared. And then he finally gets to do his magic trick for the first of 2 times that it works, where he just kind of like closes his eyes and feels the card. He picks it up, looks at it, fakes bad, and then like slow motion tosses it under the pot.
I do kind of wish that he would have done the trick at multiple times throughout the movie, other than the first time we see him at the beginning.
We see him do it at the beginning, and then we see him do it 2 more times. And he in voiceover, he says he's never gotten it.
Right.
Like it's never worked. And that's it. The only full scene I know that was deleted from this movie was, I guess I would assume it's after he's escaping from being hanged. He meets like an old hermit woman and like hangs out with her for a second and talks about this magic thing. And then because she's kind of mystical in some way, like she ends up telling, like he tries it with her apparently in that scene and doesn't get it. And she's like, but I could see the magic in you. You do have the magic, or something like that. So that was a scene that they said they cut out because it didn't tonally fit and it was probably getting too long, but it would have been another mention of that theme, you know?
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
That was a scene in this movie. It's almost like the singing bush in The Three Amigos. Like, what is?
Yeah, why is it here? Well, and then the last line of the whole movie, the last little interchange is like, you know, it was magic, Dad. It was magic. And he goes, I believe you, or whatever. And it makes him happy. So that line also would hit harder if they had kept in a few more motifs about him really needing to not just be good at cards and not just lie, but have some magic in him and keep failing when he pulls the card up.
It was great, though. I think that's like one of the best dad moments of the 1990s.
James Garner's also got a voice that I could just listen to forever, and he goes, "I'm your dad. I'll believe you."
Yeah.
You know?
Oh man, that was really good. Like what you just did. That you got the inflection really well on that.
I can't be as deep as he is, but yeah.
I'm your dad. I'll believe you. Oh man, no, that's good. And then we see, you know, like he pulls the gun. We have that cool gun sequence where he pulls the guns out of his holster and he shoots the angel. One guy shoots the henchman. It's great.
All right, I'll just say now is the second quote I've quoted my whole life is, "Your security isn't worth shit. Everybody's got a gun."
That's my favorite quote from the whole movie. I watched this with Alyssa and we both howled laughing at that scene.
It's so good. Yeah.
And he delivers it so well. Coburn delivers it so well. Yeah, his voice is just incredible. Any other scenes that we
I mean, we got to cover the epilogue. There's the first epilogue. I mean, Coop finally does his first villainous act of the movie and steals all the money, runs away. And then there's the first epilogue. I don't know how you would write around it, but that could have been cut. Where Brett steals the money back and throws a gun up between him and the Commodore. And then you have the final scene with the big reveal. Brett's in a tub, smoking a cigar, has all the money, and then you see the feet of Coop behind him. And you think he's going to get held up and robbed, but all of a sudden the music gets a little lighthearted. Where another theme of the movie was, my pappy always said this, my pappy always said that. Mel Gibson does that again, and Coop says, "No, I never said that. You've been misquoting me your whole life." And you're like, "Oh my God, that's his dad." And instead of fighting, they tease each other and troll each other, and they end up having a big bath together.
As a brother, as a father-son tradition, we bathe together.
We fuck the same women.
And then we get another epilogue where they're both in the bathtubs, and Jodie Foster comes back and holds them up and reveals that she had slept with both of them. I mean, or kissed both of them. She
kissed. That's all she reveals. Yeah.
Yeah. Kissed both of them, and also, you know, reveals that she knew that they were father and son, and then takes the money from the.
Okay, and so then twist within twist within twist. Then he reveals his old boot trick. And then says, you know, and I think it's like kind of the ending theme, the little like punch on the end of the movie. He's like, "I got another boot twice as full." And he goes, "I don't know why I left half the money in the case though." And he goes, and his dad goes, "Yeah, you do." And he's like, "Yeah, I do know. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun trying to get it back." So it's just going to lead into the next adventure, and they're going to like friend rob each other until they all die, I guess. Just having fun in the Old West.
That's what you do if you don't get like cholera or something. Like, or
they're just doing in the Old West, like going back and forth through doors and ripping each other off and not keeping score. It's pretty sweet.
That is pretty sweet. Yeah. So that ends the movie. Who was your favorite character in the movie?
I mean, my favorite character, I mean, it's got to be Maverick, but I don't know that the side characters stand out very much. I don't think Alfred Molina's bad, but I don't love him on screen. So it's got to be Joseph. Joseph's my favorite character.
Joseph's the best. I actually had Annabelle and Joseph. Joseph's incredible. I liked Annabelle. I liked that. Again, I liked seeing that side of, I guess, Jodie Foster in this. That's more talking about the person playing her. But I thought Annabelle was really funny and charming and sexy and all of these, and like falls flat on her face, like as a klutz, and all these
Yeah,
things in
totally.
there. I was really into Annabelle.
I mean, I guess that's the most surprising performance. I mean, if it wasn't for Mel Gibson really just being my favorite
Nailing
version
it,
of Mel
yeah.
Gibson in this movie, I would give Jodie Foster the MVP as the actor. And because that was a little more surprising for me, I loved it all the more, kind of like you're saying. But I don't know. I think Mel Gibson might still like just a scotch more, just be like really in his element here.
Yeah.
And he's carrying so much of the movie, and he's elevating everybody he's talking to. So, but yeah, Joseph as the character. No, there's no better character in the movie than him.
Than Joseph. Yeah, Joseph's the best character.
Yeah, you guys are a bunch of assholes.
Speaking of Joseph, you got any quotes from Joseph that you wrote down?
I don't know. I can't read my own handwriting, so probably
That's
not.
okay. No, the only interaction I had was between the Archduke and Joseph when he's like, "Kill Indians? Is that legal?" And Joseph says, "Oh, white men been doing it for years."
Yeah, totally. That's the one I have actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you people are such assholes. Isn't a great quote, but the way he just says some of that stuff. I was like really looking for quotes to write down because this movie's so funny. It's so verbally, wittily funny, but not a lot of them are like standalone quotes that like you can just kind of say out of context and enjoy.
Yeah.
But there's so many lines that little tiny lines and ad libs that make me chuckle a lot.
One of my favorite interactions is when Maverick is messing with Annabelle after like trying to find their way or see where he puts his ear to the ground and he does all that stuff. I think that's so funny. And then he says, "You see that hawk? You know what that means?" She says, "No. What does it mean?" He says, "Nothing. But you didn't know that, did you?"
Yeah, it's great. Again, little
I love
twists.
that.
Yeah, there's little surprises in every line. Yeah.
But yeah, like just him like putting his head to the ground and being like, "Oh, I'm just sleeping. I'm just catching a nap here."
Again, she always loses, but it's kind of fun because she's like negotiating 50-50, 60-40. Then she drips and accidentally like grabs his gun and shoots it. And then she goes, 70-30?
She's great.
Yeah. I think the only direct quote I had some stuff under laughs, but when he's doing his little monologue about who's when they're behind the tree and he says, "I know what you're thinking about Coop. He's old and decrepit. He gums his food and his women." That's hilarious.
Oh man, no, I really laughed that whole part, but I love when he's talking about ugly Annie Bransford. When she was born, she came out backwards and no one noticed.
What's funny, all the Annie stuff was like playground jokes I heard in the 90s. Yeah, the pork chop around the neck.
Oh man, when she's making love, she has to pretend she's someone else.
so like Yakov Smirnoff vaudeville, like.
Oh my gosh, it's like stuff.
And then
that I've
Kuba's
heard.
like, "Oh, that's pretty funny." She's like, "I don't think it's funny."
Yeah, she didn't think it was that funny. No, I really love that whole interaction. Gums' food and his women. Is that the biggest laugh of this movie? Biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill? What moment packed the biggest emotional punch?
Yeah, the biggest laugh might be that scene, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's not my favorite scene. It's just the biggest laugh. It's just like there's so much packed into them behind the tree and then leading up to the shootout.
Short laugh I like, and it's in a scene that I think we could probably get rid of. Is his hanging scene. But like when he cracks the branch and then the horse starts walking away from it and like he's still chasing it because the horse has his money or his boot or whatever it is. It's funny. That was really funny to me.
Yeah, you know what? I was watching that part and I was like, "Oh, this feels like classic Western slapstick." So it's not making me laugh, but I also thought it was really well done. Like this, the wide shot of like the branch dragging behind, and as he's like hobbling around after the horse. Yeah, you're right. That was all funny. That you're right. They can get rid of that scene. If they got rid of that scene and just wrote another scene with Angel that would establish him more and then like explain, because that scene kind of explains a lot about Angel's like whole deal. But they could make Angel better by giving him a different scene and then cut out the prologue and the Do we need the voiceover in this movie? I guess
No, I don't like it. It's
no.
weird.
I liked it when it started. Though, like, oh, here I am, and it's been a real shit week.
Yeah.
That has like a jerk vibe to it, like
Yeah.
Stephen Martin, the jerk. Like, that's been a really shitty week, is how the voiceover starts. But then the voiceover ends up like disappearing and isn't important for the rest of it.
Yeah, not important. And I guess that's because we catch up with him at that point, and then we're in real time. I guess he doesn't have to like explain anything while he's hanging on a tree.
Really, yeah. And the prologue is like, how did I get in this crazy situation? And then when you catch up to that scene, it's short and it fixes itself kind of quick. Like,
yeah.
So then it's like, oh well, we've been waiting to get back to this part to find out what happens, but then and not much happens.
No, it's anticlimactic. That's why neither one of us talked about it.
Nope.
Most what the fuck or ridiculous moment?
I guess the only there was something else I was gonna write down, and I forgot it now. I just remember when they come across the church women, and one of the Margaret Mary or Mary Margaret is just like saying the Lord's Prayer at them. He's like, "Our Father who art in heaven," is like looking at him like right in his cheek. Like the other one's explaining what's happening, and she's just praying at him. I was like, "Whoa, that's fucking crazy, bro! You're supposed to be praying to God, not like, at me."
I didn't even notice that. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even think about it.
I watched it twice, and both times I was like, "Wow, God, she's just screaming the Lord's Prayer into his ear, like he's possessed."
Insane. The only thing I put, and obviously I know like it makes it more comical or whatever, but I said the amount of Lord of the Rings endings this movie had.
Yes,
because there were so many endings. So it's like, oh, we've got 20 minutes left. He's already won the card game. What else can be in this movie? Yeah, just
you get rid of the Commodore scene completely, and the campfire scene, and you have a quick scene that shows Coop open the bag and the money's been switched, and Brett had it the whole time.
Yeah.
And then he goes off in the distance. Then you get that. I mean, that gets rid of one of the endings, one of the epilogue things.
Yeah, the Commodore was a weird choice, and I guess you need the Commodore because if you need the Commodore to be in on it, and because you need everybody to believe that Coop is a real marshal and not somebody else's dad.
Yeah.
And so that was the part that I got real confused with, because I was like,
honestly, I thought about it both times and I still don't know what happened. All right, so what happened in this movie? Somebody's trying to keep Maverick from getting to the thing.
Yeah.
To the point of hiring somebody to kill him. So it's not his dad. Is it Commodore?
No, the Commodore hires Angel to keep Brett from the game.
But the Commodore is the one who's been stopping Brett the whole time.
Yes, but the Commodore also hired Zane Cooper to be the marshal, the security at his thing. But in order for him to be like,
Coop is his plan B. Coop's not in on plan A. Angel's his plan A to keep Maverick away.
Yes.
And his plan B is to get Coop in to rob it, and they'll split the money later.
Yes.
Okay, that does make sense. Yeah.
But how did people not realize that there is no Marshal Zane Cooper, or that?
Oh, in the Old West, that feels pretty normal.
I know, but
also we don't know that he wasn't a marshal. So we just know that we know from the credits that his name is Brett Maverick Sr.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Unless
he's just playing on the fact that obviously you can't get places very quickly in the Old West times, and they're just like, oh, I'm just going to pose as this marshal that's in Arizona right now, and I'm here in
I mean, I could believe it in this period setting, that people just conned like that all the time, and it was possible because all you could do is wait for a telegram if you were lucky enough to have telegram lines. Yeah, I don't know. It could have been a cool line in the bathtub scene of hey, by the way, when did you become a cop? And it's son, the old con's dried up. I had to try something new, that kind of thing.
Yeah, he had the mustache. Yeah, I guess that's what kept people from realizing that there's another Brett Maverick out there on the loose that people know.
Or you could have mentioned it when he takes his star too.
Well. What does the lady call them in the bathtub at the end?
They call him. He calls him Coop and Brett.
Yeah,
that's Richard Donner's wife.
Oh, okay.
which is why she's not great at acting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
she calls him Coop.
Hey, Brett, hey, Coop, you need anything? I think she says that. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it is his persona like that. Maybe that's his identity.
Yeah. That's not explained.
Yeah, that's not very well explained.
That's the moment. Why? You're a cop? Why you're just a fake cop? You're not going to talk about this?
I'm not a cop. Best music moment in this movie?
I mean, Randy Newman does a pretty good job with the score, but all of the real songs, and there's only like one in the movie, although there's like 4 listed.
There's not Kathy Mattea. It's a Carlene Cash.
Yes.
She's got a song in here, but the only
Carlene
two
Carter?
Carlene Carter. Yeah. I think I just said Carlene Cash because whatever. That's actually June Carter's daughter with Carl, whatever his name was. I'm out of there.
Yeah, I don't want to be in there.
But no, the Renegades, Rebels, and Rogues by Tracy Byrd.
Tracy Lawrence.
Oh, Tracy Lawrence, sorry. Mm-hmm. Good Run of Bad Luck by Clint Black.
So I don't know the one. I only noticed one, and it was horrible, and I didn't want it in that movie. It was just like really bad 90s outlaw country over a montage of everybody playing poker.
Okay, that's Good Run of Bad Luck.
It's like growly and
yeah. And Clint Black, it ends as soon as Clint Black gets caught cheating.
Okay.
Yeah, and thrown off the boat and says he can't swim, so somebody definitely murdered that guy.
And then Randy Newman does his song "The Gambler" over the credits, and it's funny because I don't know if you're my age, like every song he sings is just gonna be like why does Toy Story in the Old West? I mean, like what? Why does Toy Story sound like this?
Why is Toy Story the Old West?
Why is short people a gambler now? I feel bad. He's clearly such a good musician, but he's become like a punching bag. And
it's just because of his voice. But like, man, you hear some like old '80s Randy Newman songs. Like those are really good songs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't think he deserves all the great voice.
No, I think it's. And I do think he did
the score. I mean, he did the score of the movie too.
Yeah,
the score is really good.
Yeah, it's a perfect like Western movie. Like it feels like a '90s Western. Like like I can't even
have romance moments, adventure moments, and comedy moments, or like little reveals moments. And it's just above average.
It's good. It's good. Randy Newman, we love you.
I remembered the what the fuck thing that I didn't write down. I don't think you see anybody drink in this movie, except there's one shot of a guy who's shoots a shot glass of what seems to be skim milk. It's the only drink in this movie? He just takes it, he puts it down, and it's just like translucent, milky white along the edges, and it's just taking milk shots in the middle of the night at a poker tournament. But nobody else really drinks in it. But that what the fuck man was like, what did that guy just drink?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think of any time that somebody would have a drink in front of them, and it's only at the poker scenes, and I don't remember.
She thought she saw somebody pour a drink. You don't see any of the main characters drink. You don't see the bad guys. I guess they keep mentioning that the bad guys are all drunk by the creek. And then she's talking about the time, Coop killed 9 men dead sober. And, and then he's like, Coop's always dead sober. And they fight about that. But, yeah. And so, the drinking's very low. But the one drink I saw get taken was clearly skim milk out of a scotch glass.
Interesting. I wonder if William Goldman was going through
Chad brought up White Russians. White Russian came to mind, and I guess that was a thing that was back. I mean, I don't know. There's no Kahlua back there. What do you put in a White Russian? Vodka, milk, and
that's it.
I guess you just put some coffee, like boiled down coffee syrup or something.
Yeah.
And maybe that existed back then. But that would be a weird choice for the one shot, the one quick shot of a rando in the background drinking something to shoot a White Russian. But yeah, it's a strange choice.
Yeah, that is the only drink that's in the movie. You're right. Huh. I didn't even think about it. But I remember that drink specifically because, I was like, White Russian? That's interesting for this time. Or are you like Doc Brown, who or that orders a milk?
Yeah, he does like a milk, Doc Brown.
He likes a milk. Skim. Let's see. All right. F, Marry, Kill.
Can't wait.
I can't wait.
I'd fuck everybody in this movie.
It's going to be between Maverick, Coop, and Annabelle. It's our three main characters.
I guess I gotta kill Annabelle
Yeah.
and fuck Maverick and marry Coop.
Okay.
I got
That's
you.
fine.
I just
You
gotta.
to. I want to see that tape.
Do it. I don't know. Like, I don't want to kill Coop. I mean, like, unless I'm just being ageist. I'm like, I don't know. You don't have a long time to live. I definitely don't want to marry Annabelle, and I don't think I want to marry Maverick
I
either.
don't want to marry Maverick either.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, you couldn't trust. You would have to
I
marry
trust
Coop.
either
You're
of
right.
them, but Maverick would charm me more than Annabelle.
You're right. You could. Coop is the only one that you could essentially.
But then have to choose who to kill and who to fuck. I mean, if I was just playing it like just full on heterosexual, then yeah, Jodie Foster, I guess.
Yeah.
But I want to kill Maverick. But honestly, I mean,
He hates Jewish people, so
the Riz and the sexy scenes or whatever, Maverick seemed just more DTF and more confident.
that man looks good with his shirt off.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
They found a way to take it off too.
Do I agree with you?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
Because also, by the way, when he gives, like, they invented the whole thing was like, I caught you, so now you have to clean my shirt. Like, what a dumb idea.
Yeah, I would have done that
wanted
shit.
him to take his shirt off.
That was clearly the only reason that was in the movie. Yes, is
Yeah.
just to get his shirt off and for him to wear a tighter shirt later.
Yeah.
Really good. All right, who delivered the standout performance, the best performance?
Mel Gibson did.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. It is Mel Gibson all the way. He's just the best version of Mel Gibson that you've had from all of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, action Mel Gibson, funny Mel Gibson, charming Mel Gibson. You get them all.
I mean, Braveheart's going to give it a run for its money as far as best role.
Yeah.
I don't care about Lethal Weapon, all that as much as other people do, and that's fine. I mean, it's cool. I get why people like it, but
yeah.
So yeah, Mad Max is just kind of one note. So this is the Mel Gibson I like best.
I haven't seen. Did you watch all the Mad Maxes? Like the Beyond Thunderdome and Road Warrior and all that stuff? And he was very one note the whole time. I haven't seen.
Yeah, I don't know that. The character is. I don't know that he's bad. I think he's good, but like, other than honestly, he does the most acting in the original Mad Max or whatever, the Road Warrior, right? Because he loses his wife and he has a lot of emotion in that moment. But that's still kind of one note. He's just a guy in the apocalypse. He's a cop and he loses his wife, and that's it. And the rest of the time, he doesn't have much to lose, so there's not much for him to have emotional, like reactions to. But that's cool because he's just supposed to be a badass who survives against all the odds.
Yeah. Yeah. Guess that makes sense. I need to watch him. I haven't seen
Gallipoli's great. If you haven't seen Gallipoli, you should watch that movie.
Yeah, that's on the list. I think that's on 1001 list.
Yeah, that's the Australian movie people forget about. It's really awesome. It's a World War II movie, so it's a genre thing. But
yeah, I think the only other one that's on the list is like Roger Dodger, that neo-Nazi Australian movie with
I don't know that.
Russell Crowe. It's like 1001 one too.
Yeah, sure.
All right, if you so would you recast this movie if you could? 94, you could recast somebody. You could do somebody in 2024. I know you hate doing these.
No, I did a decent enough job. Nothing too surprising.
Yeah.
It's hard for 94 because I do think that the cast is what carries this movie.
The only thing I think is like a younger George Clooney. Like this is him right before. Like,
I went a little bit comedy. Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, would he be interesting in this?
He'd be interesting.
like
Meryl
that.
Streep, or no, Gina Davis was better. Gina Davis
That's
could have been great. She delivers lines funny. And then Jack Nicholson as Coop.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Paul Newman.
Paul Newman, yeah. That's the one I wrote. I wrote down Robert Redford, maybe.
Yeah. It'd have been interesting. I mean, it would have worked, but I like the fact that they got the old Maverick.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know how many people actually watched that show or cared 30 years or 40 years later that he's, there's a remake of the Maverick TV show in the movie. I don't know how many people gave a shit.
Well, it's like I think my dad knew that trivia too, but like I doubt that your dad or my dad ever said, and that show was great and I loved it.
Right.
It's just dad trivia that they knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many Western shows were on at that time?
I mean, Western TV was not known for being great, but like, I mean, you had Gunsmoke and Wagon Trail and
Bonanza.
Gunsmoke might have been more 60s. I think the Wagon Trail was 50s.
But yeah, all those like 50s ones, Gunsmoke, like you said, Gunsmoke, and there's one more that I can't think of, but
Yeah.
Rifleman, that's one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Those old shows. I bet if you found like a good listicle or whatever, that they had good teleplays, good scripts, like because there's like episodic things that happen, and I'm sure there were like episodes that I'd love to go back and watch, but there's no way I'm gonna love all of Gunsmoke. You know, there's no way I'm gonna
and
love all of Maverick.
I probably should have brought this up earlier. It's interesting too that this like 90s bubble here, this like early 90s that we're talking about, we're really high on these. Hey, let's take an old television show and make a movie about it. I mean, I got a whole month that we're doing, or these next 3 weeks are all shows that were turned into a movie. But I thought of so many other ones as I was going through this.
Well, I think my best pair with is one, you know. So yeah, I don't know why that, but it's funny because now we're in a world of recycled IP, but we were recycling IP in the 90s and early 2000s. It was just shit IP that nobody cared about or even knew was recycled, you know.
It's funny that some of the
Lost in Space movie, you know, like it's weird that they were doing that kind of shit. They did Man from U.N.C.L.E. was later, but
I've got Addams Family playing behind me. As just another time that they were like, hey, we've got all this stuff. Let's
Brady Bunch movies, the Flintstones movies,
and like those movies, I thought those movies are funny to me. And like comedy, like genius. When I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I was like, the Brady Bunch movie is so freaking funny. So yeah, it's interesting that they were doing this at the time. But I'm wondering, like, what are they going to do? Put My So-Called Life and turn that into a movie, or are they going to? What shows are they going to do from?
Man, there's a crowd for My So-Called Life. My So-Called Life is a thing that gets one season on Hulu. It's pretty good for the people who find it, but not enough people find it, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
But we're doing like high fidelity television show. We're doing
that's true.
Weird shit now too. So
yeah, I guess everything would be like movie to television.
Yeah, that's kind of the move now with streaming services being so huge and theaters being down. We're finding ways to bring back beloved movies like Cobra Kai was a huge hit, you know. So
yeah, that's interesting. Somebody should do a study on that. That has time. Yeah, so that was the only thing I could think of. George Clooney in '94.
That's good.
I think his character in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is very Brett Maverick-y, just fast talking.
You'd have to dirty him up that way though, because there's something about Mel Gibson too, as attractive as he is. He's kind of got like a hangdog, like kind of ragged face that looks old Western. George Clooney's a little too pretty, so you'd have to find a way to make him less. The stubble goes a long way, I guess. Like you do that.
Give him some good hair. 2024, did you cast anybody?
Chris Hemsworth as Brett.
Yeah, I think I cast Chris Hemsworth in the movie last week.
Oh, sure.
Because I was like,
I think he does comedy and he's hot and does action. So I mean, that's kind of the slam dunk. Margot Robbie's pretty obvious, but I think she could kill it. And then Pedro Pascal as Coop.
Yeah, no, that's great. You could always
alternatively Colin Farrell could be interesting as Coop, but he'd have to be too straight. Like I don't really want to see Colin Farrell be that straight anymore as an actor. So Coop has to be kind of the straight, ragged patriarch. I think Pedro's got that locked down at the moment.
You could always bring Mel back.
Oh, you bring Mel back. Oh my God, the never-ending daisy chain of like
just Mavericks for years.
This is Brett Maverick Jr., Brett Maverick the third. Cut to the year 3000. It's like Brett Maverick 67 in space.
It's the new Doctor Who. It's Maverick. No, I honestly I thought of Margot Robbie and I was like, I mean, she's almost too perfect for the role.
I know, right? Like it feels like a lame pick. You always when I look into those, I want to find some special gem to like elicit that. Oh my God, that'd be perfect kind of reaction. But Margot Robbie's so perfect and so hot right now, like that. It's just obvious that's who it would be, and she'd crush it. She'd be great.
Yeah. Do you know who Glenn Powell is?
I know the name, but no.
He's like hot new actor guy, but he's got that. Everybody's saying like he's the next movie star, not best actor, movie star. Like they compare him to a Tom Cruise, and they compare him to like a Mel Gibson-esque kind of person, just because he has that quick gab.
That's cool. Because when I look it up, I'm like, oh, that's right. We don't let hot actors do comedy anymore.
Yeah.
we let schlubby comic actors have their own world, and then we let drama have like jokes in it, but we don't let anybody get to be like Mel Gibson gets to be silly, like in this movie. And you don't let the Mel Gibsons of the 21st century like do that kind of stuff anymore. So it's hard when I'm looking through like a list of like the hottest actors in 2024 or whatever. It's hard to find somebody who can like pull off the comedy in this movie, but still be an A-list like hot boy,
Yeah, and we don't have a ton of like movie star guys. I mean, maybe like a Ryan Gosling could do this. He's got the humor part of him too.
That's true. What about Ryan Reynolds?
I mean, Ryan Reynolds is very obvious. Yeah, right? Like, that's good.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah, because he does. I mean, it is Deadpool. This is Deadpool that plays cards.
Totally.
This is poker pool.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. So,
poker pool.
Yeah, I other than Margot Robbie, I was like Elizabeth Olsen, just somebody that kind of looks Jodie Foster-esque. I thought even like Kristen Stewart would. I was like, Kristen Stewart could probably do this too. I feel like they're very similar people.
Yeah.
They share that. What Panic Room? They were in Panic Room together.
Honestly, Kristen Stewart reminds me of Jodie Foster, how she normally is in movies, not how she is in this one. But yeah.
Yeah, but I'd like to see.
Part of it.
I've seen the newest Charlie's Angels movie. It's terrible, but the only good part of it, it's full on comedy, is Kristen Stewart, and she's actually really, really good at the comedy part. Cool. Yeah, she was
I like her a lot.
Yeah, I tell people. I think I tell Alyssa this all the time, but I'm like, I love that Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart have careers now, and are like regarded as very good actors. So
it took me a while to overcome the Twilight hate, but also just find their own voice in acting in general. Because I saw them both in bad movies too, where they were trying really hard, but they both eventually won me over and impressed me.
Your favorite one?
Remember Me?
Remember Me.
Best twist in the movie. You're talking about twists in the movies?
William Goldman wrote
that movie was an inside job.
Oh man. Any fun facts that you want to say about the film?
I'm obsessed with pinball, and apparently there is a Maverick pinball machine that I want to find and play.
I love that made it on their Wikipedia.
Oh,
there was a section that was like pinball. This is the thing. There's
no doubt that there's a pinball nerd out there, because that's a little subculture full of like beautiful and horrible autistic nerds. And there's at least one of them that also crosses over in the Venn diagram with being a Wikipedia nerd. And they probably just went to found a list of every pinball machine, and there's so many IPs they're based on, and then went and added that to every article.
I hope you find.
And then it probably got taken off of all the biggest ones, but Maverick, it stays in. Like, there's nobody double checking the Maverick article, so they let it.
There's not enough. There's not enough people checking Maverick's Wikipedia page, because we need people to do that. What else? I didn't have time to look for a clip. I don't know if a clip exists, but apparently in 1993, before this movie was finished editing and released, on an episode of WWF Raw, Jerry Lawler spoiled the twist in this movie. That was an IMDb. In a 1993 WWE Raw episode, Jerry Lawler spoiled the fact that James Cooper is James Garner is Maverick's dad. I don't know how it came. I gotta find it. I've got to see what the context is and why he's like,
for all you people out there,
puppies. And here's the spoiler for.
I imagine that like he was probably like hanging out with some like Hollywood types, or was like invited to the set of Maverick. And then he was just like, like, in between matches, and was like, yeah, I was out there about this new movie where James Garner is like, Mel Gibson's dad, and everybody was cool to me. And then the creators of the movie were like, bro, don't do that.
You can find a Maverick pinball machine. I think they're around $2,900 is what people like.
Okay, that's pretty standard for a 90s machine from what I've seen that lately.
Yeah, there's one in Erie, Pennsylvania for sale, $2,400 or best offer. So
I want to spoil, this happened in like an hour before the podcast. I want to spoil something from my personal life. It's a little bit of tea. I've been playing so much free pinball at my place I work at the second job that just opened recently, that the two guys who own the pinball machines apparently can do audits, and they were a little pissed that like 4 out of 5 games weren't being paid for because I was playing them for free. And apparently one of the guys taking his 2 machines away.
No way.
Yeah, he's throwing a hissy fit about it. I'm an employee there. One of the guys was at least like, yeah, your employees can play free games. But I've been playing so much pinball for free. And then I throw my cash chips into the bag that they get paid from, so they get something from it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the gravy train's over, and I mean, my pinball obsession might be over because there was big drama today as the pinball boys were upset about how little money they were making at our tap room. I don't know what they were expecting.
That's awesome. I mean,
So,
that's sad that you don't have any more pinball machines, though.
Yeah, because if I can't play for free, I don't know that I can afford to be obsessed with it.
Yeah, that would be an expensive.
I think he's mad because I took the high score in Zeppelin, in the Led Zeppelin machine, and it was probably his high score.
He could just reset that, though.
Yeah, but then I'll just take it all over again.
I hope you follow these machines wherever they go.
Oh yeah,
and
I know how to. I know where they're at in the town. I'm gonna target them. Anyway, that's unrelated. That was a tangent.
This film is loaded with cameos by a lot of people. We already mentioned a couple of them, like Margot Kidder's in here, Danny Glover's in here, Carlene Carter playing a waitress on the riverboat. She's in here. Hal Ketchum is a bank robber. Vince Gill is somebody just in the background at the poker game. Waylon Jennings and Kathy Mattea actually get lines in this as the 2 people with guns on the riverboat. That's
funny. Yeah,
that was good. Funny. Didn't realize it until after the movie. I was like, oh, those.
Yeah, I didn't know that was him until I read about it. I knew that he was in the movie somewhere, but I know that was him.
Clint Black is the gambler, gets thrown off the first one, and then Reba McEntire is I need to go back and see if I can.
She's
see
just sitting
her
in the background watching the poker game or something.
Yeah, the opening poker scene. So she's just in the background, probably in probably in a dress. Who knows? But yeah, that's all the cameos that were in this movie. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot, and a lot of
that's
them,
not even. That's just the country singer cameos. Wasn't there like a ton of like old Western country?
I wouldn't recognize any of those guys, or they wouldn't mean that much to me. But there's a long list of people who have been in Westerns forever who are just around.
That's cool.
It's cool.
That's cool. That is cool. Anything else?
I don't think so. Nope.
The only other thing I had was because we covered that Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster became really good friends after this. Annabelle keeps calling Brett Bert. This is a reference to an episode of the television show in which a girlfriend of Brett's keeps calling him Bert.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So
that's good.
I do
want to point out that the going underneath the coach and the stagecoach runaway thing, like the review you read was like, oh, this was just a trope, but it's like a very first of all, great scene. I already said that, but it's an homage to Stagecoach in 1939, where they have to do that same thing, which was like the first big Western. Like there were like silent films and like Westerns before that people liked, but Stagecoach was the first like cinematic masterpiece, won awards, was beloved for decades, set the standard, gave us John Wayne in 1939.
What's the director? John Ford? Is that a John Ford film?
John Ford movie, yeah. John Ford, who was like the first great Western director. So yeah, that's like an homage to that, and not just a ripped off trope, I think. But yeah. Or also an homage to Speed, which is going to come out in 2 months, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I think Alyssa said at one point. She was just like, "This is like Speed, except in the West."
Yeah.
During that scene, like a fine glass of wine with dinner. Sorry. If you could pair this movie with another movie for a double feature, what would it be?
The more serious answer I had was The Hustler, but it doesn't quite work. But it's about somebody who's really trying to go prove that he's the best at this game. The better one is just Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Also based on a TV show that nobody cared about. And then Jim West has the same, I'm kind of a scoundrel. I barely know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go. Sometimes I'm a little cowardly. It's a little silly. Like, I bumble a lot, but I also pull it all off in the end. Kind of the same vibe as Brett Maverick has.
Yeah. Indiana Jones the same way, like especially Raiders, like I don't know. I'm making it up as I go along. Like
lots of little vignettes that are on the journey to get to the end, the end climax and stuff. So I think that's the best I could come up with. And then, I looked at a bunch of other comedy Westerns, but I don't know that they're particularly good or bad as a pairing.
Like A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah. I thought about that, and City Slickers and Young Guns. And
have you ever seen a movie called The Good, the Bad, and the Weird?
No.
It's a Korean movie, but it's in the style of like a Western, and there's like stagecoach fighting scenes and stuff in there. It's really good. Like it's
Yeah.
funny and in the same genre as like Shaolin Soccer or Kung Fu Hustle. Very similar kind of thing, but the humor is really good.
And I looked up poker movies too, and there's just not really that many, and none that pair well with Maverick.
None that are fun.
Yeah, they're all very serious, but that's also poker. Like poker players and poker culture takes itself too seriously. It doesn't have enough fun.
There is an old movie, not an old movie, like I want to say like 2003 or something that I want to say is called The Grand. And
I love The Grand.
I
love that movie. That's so good.
You talking about that poker movie made me think of The Grand. Yeah, or 2007. So that's like the only other comedy poker movie that I can think of. I mean, it's got Woody Harrelson in it.
The cast is insane.
David Cross. I remember David Cross pretty.
Ray Romano, Cheryl Hines.
Richard Kind is in this as like a main dude.
So funny in that movie.
Werner Herzog's in this movie. Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
So good.
I think Amarillo Slim's in it. A real poker player.
Jeez.
Yeah, Chad, if you haven't seen The Grand, I got that on DVD cheap. Like it was an indie film that never got released anywhere, and then nobody saw it, and it's one of the funniest comedy films I remember from college.
The Grand is great. That's a good one to go with this.
I'm flying to Vegas at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, so I should watch The Grand to get ready for that because it's very much a Vegas movie too.
Where are you going to? What are you doing in Vegas? Just fun?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm just going a business conference, yeah.
Oh, it's going for work. You should see some of our friends that are out there.
I'm gonna stay a weekend to stay with our friends,
cool.
Rob and Sasha.
That's awesome.
I'm also gonna go to the Pinball Hall of Fame.
Man, you're really doing it.
I'm really fucking doing it, man.
Damn. Other movies that I don't particularly like, but I think might pair with this movie, McHale's Navy.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that goes along with all these like old shows that were turned into movies. But McHale's Navy, Brady Bunch movie, I had those written up.
An old show, yeah.
Beverly Hillbillies, that movie would go good with this if you were trying to do the same vibe here. But yeah,
Starsky and Hutch.
Ooh, yeah. See,
was a kind of serious old show. And a little country, but that was made into a comedy remake.
Dukes of Hazzard in the same way, but Starsky and Hutch is a good one because I think there's actually a poker scene in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think there's like a game.
Came to mind. I think it's pretty great. Yeah, I mean, you want comedy country? That's the OG, right?
And I think like while like Blazing Saddles or A Million Ways to Die in the West seem very parody-ish, like this movie does have those real like high scenes, like the Indian scene that we talked about. It's like a parody of a parody.
Yeah. Well, and I will say again, like I think I brought it up from the one line in the Roger Ebert review about it, like not needing to justify itself. This movie's not trying to make fun of Westerns. It's just trying to make a fun Western.
Yeah. On a rewatchability score of 1 to 5, what would you give it?
5 out of 5.
Did you watch my review of Junior last week?
No, I didn't.
Because I gave it a 5 out of 5 as well.
Yeah. I did. Hey, real quick, I did watch Junior, and I wasn't available for the being chat and the podcast. And Junior was way more fun to watch than I ever thought it would be at a rewatch.
I said it was I don't know if it was because of who I was watching, like the atmosphere I was in. I cried harder than I've cried at any comedy movie in the past 20 years.
Oh, emotionally?
I mean, just laughter. It was so funny to me.
While you were watching the film.
Maybe. It was freaking 5 out of 5. And I'm not going to go 5 out of 5 on this one for rewatchability. At 4, I do wish this movie was like under 2 hours. I know it's like just over, but God, it felt like a long time. Like I think there are some things in there that you could cut down. Overall rating, 1 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
I give it a 3.5. Yeah. Too long. Jokes weren't always the best jokes and everything for me, but I think
you're wrong about that. This only has the best jokes.
I don't know about that.
That's that 0.5 you're missing is you don't have a good sense of humor.
I don't. You're right. Well, big thanks to our guest, Ryan. Before we wrap up, let's hear some recent movie recommendations from you.
The only real movie I've been watching is and I think you might like this. Last night, me and some people, we went and saw Waitress the musical,
Love
and
Waitress the
so
musical.
I rewatched. I'd never seen the musical or listened to the soundtrack, but I love way back to college. Like I love the movie Waitress. So me and my girlfriend sat down and watched that. And that was another one I hadn't seen in a long time. How much is it going to hold up? I know it's a little cheesy and a little precious, and then it holds up so well. And I fucking love that movie, and the musical was great.
That movie is good. I remember loving the movie before the musical came out, and the music is so. Sarah Bareilles is great music.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like her, but no, Waitress the musical is great. I've seen it live, but I have not seen the televised one. So
yeah, I want to check out the televised one. It's only like the musical's been out for a while, but it was only done like a year or two ago. And Sarah Bareilles is in the starring role. So I've kind of waitressed out doing those two things right in a row, but I'm definitely going to get to that.
No, just keep going. Only Waitress things. You're gonna watch what's the Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore? Isn't that about a waitress?
Oh yeah, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore is a great movie.
So you're just gonna watch Waitress films from here on out.
Totally.
Okay, so thank you. Or what else? Do you have anything else that you want to
No, I think it's the only movies in Junior. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly haven't been seeing that many movies either, besides Junior, which I'll recommend every day for the rest of my life to anybody.
Totally.
Because it's just
into the CGI Arnold, baby.
It's just don't even get me started.
Can you make that an emote? No,
it was pretty terrifying. What did I watch? I watched that Apollo 13 documentary on Netflix. It's okay. It is cool. Like, honestly, after watching that documentary, I was like, man, Apollo 13, the Ron Howard movie, got a lot of stuff correct. And like, even the dramatization of it, like, no, they did a pretty good job with, like, it's pretty much telling the story, because you don't get a lot of new stuff from the documentary that you didn't know in the movie.
You get some
you get the archival footage. Like, that's so cool. And that's why I loved
to watch.
It was done by the same guy that did the Apollo 11 documentary, which is beautiful. But yeah, so that's the only thing. And then I watched a Jean-Luc Godard film, a short film called All the Boys Are Called Patrick.
Is it any good?
It's about us. It's not great.
I don't know, man. French New Wave. French New Wave is like my kryptonite. I just don't know.
It's like got clever lines in it. But it's not the greatest. It's only like 20 minutes. I wanted to add
a lot of cigarette smoking?
Yeah, a lot of cigarette smoking.
Nice. I do like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's really the only stuff that I've been watching lately. Not a lot. Been watching, TV.
Yeah, that and Deadwood we've been watching, and it's so good. I mean, I feel like everybody who needs to know probably already knows, but if you've always meant to watch it and you haven't yet, like it holds up 20 years later. So
my mom wanted to watch Deadwood one time, and
you said no.
I was just like, hey, good for you. She calls me after the first episode. She's like, that's not how they talked. That's not how they talked back then. I've never heard that word.
Profanity or like the Shakespearean monologuing?
No, the profanity. Yeah, it was definitely the profanity. He was like that. They didn't even talk like that when I was, what age. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they did. Like,
well, I do know that learning the new slur for Swedes or relearning it is squareheads.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and I've been calling everybody a squarehead ever since. Even in the scene where they find the missionaries who got robbed, or like, oh, look at these squareheads. There's a bunch of squareheads in this movie.
Yeah, that feels pretty harmless. I think you could go around saying that to people.
Slurring the Swedes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those recommendations, and thank you for Deadwood. Yeah, I'll tell my mom and see if she'll give it another try. Just want to remind everybody about extra credit. If you're still participating with us, every month we have a bonus stream at the end of the month, the last Wednesday of the month, and this month's bonus stream is sports. Where we're talking about 4 to 5 movies. We're talking about 5 movies this month for about an hour, just hitting on a couple things of those because they're traditionally not always the best movies. But these movies this month are The Air Up There, starring Kevin Bacon, The Scout with Brendan Fraser and Albert Brooks, Above the Rim, Tupac, 8 Seconds with Luke Perry playing a cowboy. It's great. And Blue Chips, which is a William Friedkin movie, which is insane. And you can tell in it that it's a William Friedkin movie, I feel like, but it's about basketball and recruiting, which is kind of a weird movie now that we pay people to play sports at these colleges above the table. And of course, you can get all that information and more by joining our Discord server. You can get there in our links. And you are always welcome to follow us on Instagram and check out my account on Letterboxd. It's all from there. But next week, we'll be covering The Flintstones in our TV month. And it is currently streaming on Tubi. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on 52/1994.